Morning everyone, welcome to another weekly outlook. We're going to jump straight in as always today, and we're going to start off here on the monthly chart. Now just a quick review of the monthly price action. As I've been saying for a while now, we're in this bullish dealing range from this low to this high. We met resistance at this imbalance here and order block, and we had a bearish reaction from there all the way until March. Okay, so what is our April candle showing? Currently we're bullish. Of course we're closing out possibly as bullish. We only have 2.5 days left until this monthly candle is closed. So what scenario are we in? Right, we are in the premium with, here's the discount. We have discount PDAs, right, which are draws on liquidity. We have imbalances here. I've left those out because we're just going to use the quarterly imbalances at the moment, but we've got BPR, monthly imbalance, and then we've got this quarterly order block. We've got this quarterly BPR here that was holding price, right, many times before, so it could be seen as support. You could also see this as a touch into that BPR here and rejection as well. So if price were to pull back to the discount, we have a lot of draws of liquidity here to support this pullback move here towards that discount. We have a quarterly fair value gap where the open is from here. So this quarterly fair value gap was the main target. However, as you can see here on the right, the monthly bearish pullback is in doubt due to SMT and the BPR. Right, so from this low to this low, DXY had actually mitigated the quarterly fair value gap. So from there, we had a bullish reaction. Okay, as you can see, this candle closed out up here, and we've had a bullish April so far. What else do we have in this area? We have a quarterly BPR, right, from here, and this gap, and a gap over here as well. It's also a monthly BPR anyway, even if we refine it there. So it applies from the quarterly and the monthly. So it's no coincidence where price has been rejecting around this point. So that's why it's possible, given the SMT, right, the bullish SMT and the quarterly BPR, that this bearish pullback to the discount, right, towards this quarterly fair value gap may be in doubt, and we may continue bullish and start coming for these highs and this low resistance buy side liquidity. But anything can happen. That's the main topic here. Anything can happen still. So the discount draws on liquidity remain, right? They still can attract price. Price can still come to this quarterly fair value gap, but it's about being flexible, reading the price action and the PDAs here and seeing that price may actually be ready to go bullish. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Hope I didn't rush over anything. We've got our bullish dealing range, and we've also got some bullish signals here that the monthly may not pull back into this quarterly fair value gap, right? Especially seeing as DXY already has done that. So let's go down to the weekly. Let's see if that clears anything up for us. So on the weekly chart, as I've written here, we still have this weekly bearish dealing range, right, from this high to this low, where we broke structure around this point here. We took the sell side liquidity, and of course around this part in March is where DXY came into that quarterly fair value gap and EU did not. We've reversed, right, pulling back towards this bearish imbalance PDA here. So the weekly picture has become more complicated as well after this sort of pullback reversal bullish price action here. So bearish imbalance and BPR around here as well, right? Price would use this as resistance. However, price did not break down immediately from this zone, so it left behind a bullish imbalance. Okay, so once this bullish imbalance was set, the picture became more complicated after, as I said, we had that SMT here, we had the quarterly BPR as well, right? But then we're adding in more bullish PDAs, right? We're adding in a bullish imbalance now, just below price. So a couple things to mention. Price could have then used this bullish imbalance, right, as I've demonstrated here, to go higher, because now we have those barriers in the way. So we're stuck between this bearish imbalance and bullish imbalance. However, at the open this week, DXY, it'll be much clearer on the daily, so I'll show you, but we've got the red line here, right, towards this week. DXY opened up higher within its imbalance on the weekly, so it has entered this weekly imbalance. So these scenarios here, we can see price literally just continue bullish from here. We can see price maybe come down into this fair value gap here, or go below it and use it as resistance. As I was saying on a monthly, anything can happen, but now we're starting to create that picture which is possibly invalidating the continuation of the bearish order flow that was created here on the weekly, right? Which was this bearish dealing range, pull back to the bearish PDA, right? And we were expecting it to continue to come down into this discount towards these quarterly PDAs, right? Now, as the monthly, as I show you on a monthly, that bearish outlook is more in doubt. It's also more in doubt on the weekly because we also have another batch of SMT at this bullish PDA here. We've also got an old BPR here, which is where those candle bodies, once we had gone above it, are now closing out, right? Possibly respecting. That's just an added confluence. But we are between all of these PDAs here. So as I've said over here, we could see some consolidation, but it might be favoring that bullish move at the moment. We've got to face the bullish scenarios first until price action invalidates that and goes below it. Not the clearest picture. Again, anything can happen is more the theme that's going on here. Monthly, we've possibly got to consider that bullish scenario. Weekly, also because of these PDAs here that are stacking up now, becoming resistance for us to head lower. We're going to rely on the daily and the lower time frames to see sort of where price is going and how it's reacting in these areas. So let's go to the daily. Let's see if the daily agrees, disagrees, or what's happening there. But looking at the daily as it's been, right, since April sort of started now, we do have bullish order flow, right? We do have that bullish shift in structure, imbalance respected, bullish dealing range right from this low to this high. We've had a reaction from up here. We had SMT, took that low resistance buy side liquidity. This was also an old BPR here, so which was respected previously a few times, right? We respected with that high. We've had that bearish reaction. Now that's where we expected price to come into this weekly fair value gap, okay? But this is where the SMT has occurred. So if I bring up DXY at the bottom here, DXY opened up after the weekend up here, right? This was a gap. So it opened up within that fair value gap here, opened up, and then obviously immediately had a bearish move and retraced from there. So that's where we pulled back up. It looked like we were going to continue bullish. Monday was where that SMT occurred, but I didn't want to put the lines through the candles, right? So just be aware that it's Monday, which had spiked into this fair value gap on DXY. So what happened yesterday is we were bullish. However, it seems like we've respected this old BPR. We're having a reaction from here, and it may be sending price lower. So we may come into this fair value gap, right? We're obviously bearish so far this morning. We'll need to see the lower time frames to see how good today's bearish price action is. But you can see what the idea was this potential high time frame market maker buy model. This could still play out. This could still play out. As we said, the weekly could still go bearish, right? Monthly could still go bearish. We've still got the quarterly fair value gap here, but the daily is of course bullish at the moment. And look, the weekly and daily have created bullish imbalances, right? Which is resistance. We've got an old BPR here, which was also respected previously. We've got more bullish order blocks and imbalances as well. I can't concentrate on the downside scenario when there's so much bullish scenarios that could play out here, right? There may be a short-term draw to the bottom if we can see what the lower time frame is saying. So I'm a bit neutral here on the daily. So on the lower time frame, if we see good price action, bearish price action coming in to head towards these previous weekly lows, this weekly fair value gap, then of course I will go bearish and look for shorts down into these zones here. And then once we're in these zones, we can see if the order flow, the bullish order flow kicks back in on those lower time frames, right, with the daily support and weekly support from these fair value gaps here to go long, right? We do have SMT, but it doesn't mean that price is going to ignore this here or even come lower to this order block and fair value gap here. So we'll see what price does, right? At the moment, we're having a bearish reaction from this BPR. We have sell side liquidity below, of course, and these PDAs that price may be drawn towards. Previous daily low here would be probably the first target if anything shapes up before then. All right, so just a quick recap on the daily. Bullish dealing range, bullish PDAs, which are of course barriers to any long-term bearish price action at the moment. The high time frames are showing those possibilities to continue bullish as well. So the daily may be respected here, and we continue for this potential market maker buy model. Short term today, we may see lower prices, so I'm a bit neutral, so I'm relying on the lower time frame to see what direction I'd be trading for, at least today. So in saying that, let's start to have a look at the lower time frames. Let's see what the 4 hour is currently showing us. So this 4 hour order flow to me is currently screaming bearish, of course. We took that buy side liquidity into that low resistance, and we had that SMT, which I showed us on the higher time frames. We completed that 4 hour market maker buy model as well. Price broke down, made that lower low, structure shift, then respected these bearish PDAs here. And even though we haven't created loads of bearish PDAs, right, we've got an imbalance there. Price has continued bearish here on the 4 hour. This old fair value gap here looks to be respected once, twice, right? All these candle bodies, we've revisited that as well, and it looks to be being rejected again. I see that 4 hour order flow is bearish. We may see some sort of reaction here from this old fair value gap, which we previously respected. We'll see if price wants to come up this high. I've just drawn this in because that is the clear PDA here on the 4 hour. This imbalance here, this may close out, and of course this would confirm this imbalance here, so then I would just draw in an imbalance there. Price may revisit that first before continuing lower, right? Previous weekly lows here, and then that weekly fair value gap. So 4 hour does look good for bearish price action, but the 1 hour is important as well. So let's have a look at that and see where it's going. So here on the 1 hour, you can see where Monday was pretty bullish, right? We had respected that 1 hour imbalance pretty early. It looked to be was heading towards this low resistance buy side liquidity, which would have completed this little fractal market maker buy model on the lower time frames here towards these highs. As we've seen, price has reversed around this point here where this 4 hour old imbalance is, and we've been bearish since. Now there's not been a lot of PDA respect, right? There's not been much imbalances. Price kind of just dripped down after hours. Now we've got this Asia range, so this is the first sign of bearish order flow today on the lower time frames on the 1 hour. We have respected this so far. Of course, we prefer if we take the Asia range buy side liquidity, so that's why I've said here some early bearish order flow on the 1 hour. However, the PDA used is from the Asia range, so I need further order flow to confirm. We're pretty much getting that further order flow, right? This is closing out in 11 minutes. So what we're going to have here is this bearish imbalance plus this bearish order block. All right, so that's about to be confirmed in 11 minutes. So if price revisits this area here, and then we start to see it break down on, say, M15 as well, and the entry time frames, then for me, I think that will look pretty good. Okay, so if price comes to this zone here and the M15 starts to break down, then I can trust that this Asia range will be protected, right? This high here, I don't have to worry about this 4 hour BPR maybe, and this high here as much, right? Because price usually likes to take Asia range, right, on both sides, the sell side and buy side liquidity. But so far we have, of course, the potential for a 1 hour market maker sell model down to this previous weekly low, and maybe even weekly fair value gap here. So this would be our buy side curve. Of course, we've hit those barriers, those resistances, and price is starting to break down, right? We've broken below this swing low here. Price has then created some bearish PDAs which are starting to be respected, so that's the first sign of order flow here. Now what would be good, of course, is for this second side of order flow on the 1 hour to start to be respected as well. The M15 will indicate that early, and the M5 and stuff, of course. This area here we have to watch out for, which is why we're going to want to see the M15 start to break down from this zone here. So we've got this open imbalance here on the 1 hour and 4 hour is previously respected. This is the 4 hour bullish imbalance line. If the hourly closes, say, as a low test wick like this, then it starts to look a bit more negative, of course. But that's why we have to let this imbalance here confirm, so that this doesn't hold price and just send us bullish again. Okay, so we need to be patient and use this zone here. So the 1 hour, I do think, is of course leaning bearish as well. We're seeing these early signs of bearish order flow. The 4 hour was always sort of in a bearish state as well. Hadn't confirmed in that bullish order flow just yet. Let's check out the M15 briefly just to look at a possible trading scenario for today. For me, I'm neutral on the daily. 4 hour, 1 hour seems to be bearish so far. Just waiting for confirmations on that on the M15 as well, once or if we come back up into this zone. So today my sense of direction is to the downside, probably heading for this previous weekly low, right? And then I'll just take it day by day from there. So now down onto the M15, like I said, I'd want to see the pullback to this zone here, however that may look, and then probably a good strong high, and then a breakdown like this, and then I'd start heading, looking for trading opportunities once we get this pullback here, right, into some sort of M15 PDA, show respect of this one hour imbalance and order block zone here. Okay, so we'll see if we get that. And again, just to show more, right, we have this Asia range buy side liquidity. We prefer when that's not the high, but at the moment it is a nice high where it's taken buy side liquidity before breaking down. But the danger is we could always come for this, and if we look here, the way these highs are kind of stacked here, that's low resistance buy side liquidity. Okay, so even though we've respected that 1 hour Asia range imbalance, right, we do have these highs stacked up in a bit of a negative way. So we're going to want price to come back to this zone here, respect it, and then break down like this. And then my worries about this zone here would be less, right? I'd have less worries about this zone here once price shows respect. Okay, so that's just the way I see it and the way I'm reading it. So today I'm favoring those shorts because I'm just following the lower time frame order flow.